Well, good morning, and thank you for choosing to worship with us today at Leich Church Online. Thank you so much. This week is such an exciting week coming up because it is Thanksgiving week, one of my favorite weeks of the year. And we're going to be focusing on that today in our service and in the sermon today about living a life of thanks. But before we get to all that, we'll have the worship and all. I want to encourage you, if you have never filled out one of our digital connection cards, I would like to encourage you to fill that out. It's really simple to do. You can either text the word connect to 407-543-1423. You can get out your phone and you can get out that camera app and you can scan the QR code on screen, or even simpler, you can click on the link below and fill that out. And we would love for you to do that. And if you fill out a connection card later this week, we will send you a special gift by email for doing that. So thank you so much. Thank you for worshiping and choosing to worship with us here this morning. You know, being in Thanksgiving week, we are able to be generous because of everything that God has blessed us with. And when we can live out of a life of thanks, then it's really easy to be generous back with God. And here at Life Church, we've made it really, really easy for you to display generosity and to be part of what we do around here to help us as we endeavor to reach others with the good news, the message of Jesus. And if you'd like to give to Life Church, you can give either by clicking the link below, or you can go to our website at www.lifechurchhw.com, or you can just simply text any amount to 84321. I want to thank you so very, very much for your generosity. Again, thank you so much for being here today. We've got an exciting service planned, so you know what? Why don't everyone get up, get ready, worship, and join our worship band in singing and praise this morning. And then in a few moments, we'll be bringing a message talking about living a life of thanks.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my doom till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. I ran out of that grave.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I breathe the breath, you breathe your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. Yes, you did. Oh, you have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Sing this out. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Sing that again. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, there's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Sing it again. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall, no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99, and I couldn't earn it. I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Sing that one more time. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me.
Well, good morning again. What an exciting day it has already been. And like I already said earlier, what an exciting week it is. Do we get to celebrate Thanksgiving? I don't know, everybody has different Thanksgiving traditions and things that they do with their families or friends or for Thanksgiving. You know what? If you're watching, we would love to know what those traditions are that you have as a family. You can just, put those in the comments below, and that's always exciting to see what other people do for these special occasions. I know for me and my family, for years and years, it's always been everybody comes together, and we eat, and then we eat some more, and then we eat some more, and then it seems like we eat some more. And so it is, I cannot wait. And one of the highlights of a Leich family Thanksgiving that started really with my wife, so I guess it would really be a Stansel family Thanksgiving that has spilled over to us for all these years is fried turkey. And so if you have never experienced fried turkey, deep fried turkey, inject that turkey with the marinade and put that Tony Chachere seasoning all on the outside and drop that bird there in the oil, oh my goodness, it'll change your life. So that is one of our traditions around here. We always have deep fried, that fried turkey. So, but Thanksgiving, it reminds me of a story of when two men were walking through a field one day when they spotted an enraged bull. Instantly, they darted towards the nearest fence. The storming bull followed in hot pursuit, and it was soon apparent that they wouldn't make it. Terrified, the one shouted to the other, "Put up a prayer, John. We're in for it." John answered, "I can't. I've never made a public prayer in my whole life." "But you must," implored his companion. "The bull is catching up to us." "All right," panted John. "I'll say the only prayer I know, the one my father used to repeat at the table. O Lord, for what we are about to receive, make us truly thankful." Well, we are to live a life of thanks. But sadly, that's just not the case many times. And it seems like even in 2020, a lot of people's joy and the ability to give thanks for really how blessed we really are seems to have been robbed in so many different occasions. But there's a true story about a ministerial student in Evanston, Illinois, who was part of a life-saving squad in 1860. A ship went aground on the shore of Lake Michigan near Evanston. And Edward Spencer waded again and again into the frigid water to rescue 17 passengers. In the process, his health was permanently damaged. Some years later, at his funeral, it was noted that not one of the people he rescued ever thanked him. Well, today there's a similar story in Scripture that we talk about a lot of times when it comes around to Thanksgiving. There's a story with Jesus that we find in the book of Luke. If you want to open up to Luke chapter 17, you can follow along with us here in just a moment. We're going to read a story about 10 lepers. And not just 10 lepers, but 10 lepers that Jesus does an amazing thing for. He heals them. So I'm kind of giving the end away here a little bit. But I don't know what you know about leprosy, but it is an awful disease that is still around even today, known as Hansen's disease. It is estimated there's still around 1.5 million cases of this. It's a debilitating disease where your body literally rots to the point where fingers and other appendages will just fall off. It is a debilitating, nasty disease. It was so contagious that people were shunned by society and made as outcasts. There were things called leper colonies. No one would go near a leper colony for fear of catching this horrible disease. Individuals were exiled to the leper colony to ultimately wait for death, really with no hope. So let's read this story here in Luke chapter 17, starting in verse number 11. It says, "On the way to Jerusalem, he, being Jesus, was passing along between Samaria and Galilee. And as he entered a village, he was met by 10 lepers who stood at a distance and lifted up their voices, saying, 'Jesus, Master, have mercy on us.' When he saw them, he said to them, 'Go and show yourselves to the priests.'" And let's stop right there. If you notice what happened here you got these 10 guys. They had heard that Jesus was going to be around. They found where he was, but they stayed at a distance. They no doubt had heard about the miracles that Jesus had been performing, about all the sicknesses and all the diseases and everything that Jesus was healing. And they just thought, well, maybe there's a little bit of hope on the horizon. Maybe Jesus is coming to town. Maybe he can do what no one else has ever been able to do. No doctors, no medicine, no anything has been able to help our condition, but Jesus is coming. And we're gonna they got these guys together and said, let's find Jesus. So they got out of where they were supposed to be, but they still kept this distance. They dared not come close to where he was. In that time, the priests were the only ones that could ever declare someone cured from a disease and give them permission to re-enter society. So when Jesus had this conversation with them, Jesus did not immediately heal them. Jesus told them to go show yourselves to the priests. Which is significant because the priest is the only person who could declare them clean, but at that very moment they were not clean. So they had to exercise some faith right here, right away. They had to make a choice. You know, I don't know about you and me. If you're like me, you'd be like, wait a second, Jesus, I can't go. I can't go see the priest yet. I'm not clean. I'm considered unclean. I still have this disease. I can't go to the priest right now. All he'll do, he'll just send us right back to the leper colony. I know I might have had some of those questions. You know, Leviticus 14 details to all that the priest had to do in order to declare someone clean. There was a whole lot of steps that needed to happen. So before they were healed, before they were here they were still in that same condition. Here they had just had this just short conversation with Jesus. Before they were healed, they had to take those steps of faith that while they were still unclean. Jesus didn't treat these people like outcasts. You know, he didn't tell them to go back to the leper colony. He didn't tell them to go back and wait for death. But Jesus gave them hope. He didn't shun them like everyone else. He showed them compassion. He showed compassion to the most down and out of society. They didn't have to try to hide their condition. They didn't try, when they came to Jesus, they weren't trying to hide their messiness. They weren't trying to hide that they weren't well, that they weren't whole. But what happened with Jesus? Jesus shows them unconditional love here. He loved them unconditionally in spite of their condition, in spite of their messiness. So let's pick up the story here. So because something quite miraculous happened when they turned and left. We don't know how far they went. We don't know whether it was a block or a few miles or what. But what we do know is that as they exercised that faith and just at what Jesus said to go to the priest when it didn't make sense, to make those steps when they weren't supposed to go that way, they were healed. They were healed at some point there. Because ultimately they believed that if Jesus said it, he would do it. That if Jesus said, go to the priest, and the only reason why they would go to the priest is to be declared healed, that Jesus must have some other plan or some other way, and that things were going to be okay. They had some kind of faith here that was being exercised. So at some point as they went on, man, they were healed. And imagine this, let's read on. It says, then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back. When he saw, could you imagine? You're talking with Jesus. He tells you to go. And you look down. Hey, I still got this leprosy. I'm still a mess. I'm still not healed or anything. But Jesus said go. So you turn and start walking away. And then all of a sudden, as you're walking, as your arms are moving, next thing you notice, you look down and be like, I'm clean. I've been healed. Jesus knew what he was talking about whenever he told me to go see the priest. Imagine the excitement that would well up inside of you. And what would have welled up inside of all of these men. Could you imagine when they looked down, like we said, we don't know if it was a mile or a block or a foot, or maybe it's on the first step. Who knows? All we know is that they were healed. And when they looked down, it says one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. What you would think what would happen, right? You would have thought, man, that this would become like a wave. You ever go to one of the football games, whenever we could go to the football games and pack the place out, and they do the wave, and it always would start in one section where everybody's seated and you go up, and then it would just fight. It would take a few times, for one section of the stadium to get it going. The next thing you know, everybody in the stadium, then it keeps going round and round and round there. So it's where it just caught on. You would have thought with one guy turning around praising, that the rest would have joined in, but we're going to see that is not what happened. It says, and he fell down on his face at Jesus' feet. He went back and found Jesus. One man did, giving him thanks. And it doesn't just stop there. He says, now he was a Samaritan. Which is very, very significant in and of itself. This guy was the outcast of outcasts. Not only did he have this debilitating disease that placed him on the outside of society, this man was on the outside of society just by who he was by birth. Being a Samaritan, they were the lowest of low. They were looked down upon as being the lowest of low. Samaritans were despised. He knew what it was to be shunned from birth. This is the one who returned. We don't know any other details about the rest of the other 9 that were healed, but we do know this one. And only 1 out of 10 returned to give thanks and praise to Jesus. Then Jesus said, let's read on. It says, then Jesus answered, were not 10 cleansed? He says, where are the 9? Where are the rest? Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner? This one that was on the outside since birth? He didn't grow up a Jew. He didn't grow up going to the temple. They weren't allowed. But Jesus says, is no one turned back except this foreigner? Those on the inside, those that should know better, where are they? And then Jesus says, and he said to him, rise and go your way. He says, your faith has made you well. What does he mean? Your faith has made you well. I thought he was already healed, right? He already had the leprosy gone. He was already healed physically. But it was then that this man got something that the other 9 didn't. The other 9 got external healing just like this guy did. But this one Samaritan, he recognized who Jesus was. That Jesus wasn't just this guy who could perform these great miracles, but he was actually the Son of God. And that he was worthy to be praised. He had something, he was given not only an outward healing, but because of his heart condition, he was given an inward healing as well. You see, leprosy, and all the decay and awfulness of it is a picture of what we are spiritually without a relationship with Jesus. But the moment that we come into relationship with Him, when we recognize that we are hopeless without Jesus, we are instantly made clean and brought into relationship with a loving God. You know what a sign of a repentant spirit is? It's that of a thankful spirit. And that's what we see here from this man that we don't see in the other 9. I'm sure they had their excuses. They were excited to get to the priest. They were excited to be declared clean so that they could re-enter society, maybe get to the family Thanksgiving that was coming up. Whatever was going on in life, man, I'm sure those guys were really excited. But they forgot to go back and give praise and thanks to the one who made it all possible for their outward healing. But here's where most messed up and get more focused on the blessing instead of the blesser. How many times have we focused on all the blessings around us and all the things, and we get so focused on the blessings in life that far too many times we forget to turn and give thanks to the blesser, to the giver of all things. Give thanks to God with our lives. The blessings in life are great, but God ultimately blesses us not for the blessing's sake, but so that we would know how good He is. To know Him. The blessing is just the icing on the cake. The icing on the cake. Don't miss out in recognizing and thanking God for the little things in our lives, in your life, in my life. If being thankful for the big things aren't easy, then I believe we need to be even more intentional, be thankful for the blessings that He gives us each and every day. Each and every day, look for those things. Look for those blessings that God gives you each and every day. You know, when I was a kid, growing up, we used to come down to Orlando all the time. And to actually Tampa, but we'd come over and go to Disney World back in the 80s and several years. And with our family, summer vacation, I had an uncle that still lives over in Tampa. even today. And there were times, so our family would come down and we would spend that time going to the park, spending time with family. And so much, as a kid, I never really realized how much sacrifice and how much my parents had to do in order to put into those trips for me and my sisters, for us to have these great time together. How much sacrifice that they put in to make that happen. I never realized that, and I probably never was as thankful as I should have been as a child until I had kids of my own. And before Stacy and I moved here, and our family just a few years ago now, we came to Orlando too with our kids a few different times to bring them to Disney World, right? Just like everybody else. There was this one in particular time, probably our second or third time that we had come, and all we had was Brandt, Bailey, and Hannah at that time. Molly was nowhere in our thought process at this point. And so it was just those three. And I think Hannah was like 4, maybe 5. And Bailey would have been 6 or 7. And Brandon would have been about 9 or so, 9, 10. And I remember Stacy, I can't do spinning rides or those things that go round and round. I get sick. And so I remember outside the teacups, Stacy got on the teacups with the other 3 little girls. And I remember throughout the day, as they go through the park and, how their faces would light up all day long when they saw those princesses, and whenever, they're watching the parades or riding the rides, and then watching Stacy with the 3 little ones there as they're going around on the ride, round and round there. I remember just starting to cry. And I picked up my phone while they're on there, and I called my dad. And I said, "Dad, I want to thank you so much for the times that you invested in our family and took us on those family vacations. I knew, and now as an adult, I knew what a sacrifice that was. I knew that the juggling that probably had to happen with the finances and things in order to make those things happen so that we have great memories as a family together." But I remember that day where it really became real to me of just having this heart of gratitude and thanks for all that was done for me with my dad and my mom. So I remember that. I'll never forget that. It's always made such an impression on me ever since that day. And so I've always, from that point, I've really tried to be really, really intentional to live a life of thanks, recognizing the blessings in our lives, and recognize ultimately that all these blessings are from God. And and then living a life of thanks not only with others, but ultimately with God Himself. Because it just like this Samaritan turned back. Not only did he have that physical healing, but he had spiritual healing that day. Boy, and right there, that's the thing. That's the thing I really want you to understand this morning. Is that even if all this guy got was the inner healing, the spiritual healing, that's all he ever needed. He didn't need the outward healing. Boy, that was great. That was an incredible thing. They got to him, and those other guys, man, they got to re-enter society. They got to go back to their lives. And boy, what an exciting thing that was. But you know what? If none of them were ever healed on the outside, and all that they received was the inner healing, then they received everything. Boy, we always have something to be thankful for if you're a follower of Jesus, even if the external things aren't right. By knowing Jesus, we have the opportunity to live a life of thanks. Why? Because we have relationship with Him. And that relationship brings so much into our life. It brings hope. It brings that peace. It brings that love that can only be found in Him. We can't live a life of thanks unless we are focused on outside of ourselves. We can't live a life of thanks when we're focused inward. What hinders a life of thanks, and we'll wind this down, well, ultimately, is selfishness, looking in, entitlement. Having the attitude that you're going to get what's yours. We have a generation, it seems, that lives life that way. Everyone thinks everything is owed to them. So we got entitlement, selfishness at its core. At its core, though, not being able to live a life of thanks, all comes down to this one thing: not having a relationship with Jesus. Not living a life of thanks for the Christ follower. Get this: not living a life of thanks for the Christ follower is in essence telling God that He doesn't know what He's doing. Because ultimately, He brings hope to the hopeless. He brought hope to this Samaritan. He brought hope to those other guys, even though they never turned back. A life of thanks, living a life of thanks, is just a natural overflow of our relationship with Him. It should be something that is a normal characteristic of a Christ follower. 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18 says this. I love these verses. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for not your neighbor, not the person across the room from you, not anyone else. You know who it's for, he says? He says it's for you. For you. This is the will of God for you. To rejoice always. To give thanks in all circumstances. And that happens, what does it say? This is the will of God in Christ Jesus. In Christ Jesus. It's all about knowing Him. This Thanksgiving, you know what? If you don't have a relationship with Jesus, this could be the most incredible Thanksgiving ever. Knowing Him makes all the difference. And through that, you can know what it is to truly live a life of thanks. Let me challenge you to do this week. Let me challenge you this week to find somebody in your life, someone, whoever that is, someone you've never thanked, someone who has blessed you, and you've never truly gone to them and said, you know what, thank you for blessing me, thank you for what you do for me. Find somebody, find multiple people this week. You know what, you don't know what that will do to someone, how that's going to lift someone up. And then this, if you don't know Jesus, choose to follow Him. And then from that point on, if you're a follower of Jesus, or if this whole thing's new to you, live a life of thanks. And point everything back to Him. Rejoice always. And give thanks back to the Creator for all that He has done for you. I love you. I thank you for watching this morning. I'm praying for you. I pray that everyone has a great Thanksgiving this week. Be safe. We're praying for you, and we'll see you next week.